Hey everybody, Tyler here from TEAMCOFF, and today we're here to talk about a fun, exciting way to fish trout worms, and that's with this rig right here. This rig's very simple. All it is a size 6 mosquito hook, a small split shot sinker, and just some little leftover line that you're tying an offshore swivel knot on here on the end.
All right, everybody, let's get into tying this rig. So you're gonna need size 6, okay, bait holder hook, mosquito, about some size 7 split shot, and depending on what you're fishing, that can change for the weight. If you're fishing some deeper pools and rivers or anywhere with a little bit of current, you might want to go a little bit heavier. If you're fishing lakes, fishing ponds, then this weight should do. And the other thing that you're going to need, of course, is just some extra line. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be using a bigger hook and some 12-pound monofilament, just so you guys can see it. This is kind of the thickest pound test that I have on me, and one of the bigger hooks that I have on me. Much smaller hook, your end rig is going to look something like that. But again, for demonstration purposes, so let's get into tying this. Offshore swivel knot. First thing what we're gonna do is get both these lines, these line ends, through the hook here. Okay. We got both through, slide that down evenly, and forgive me you guys, I've never really done this here with my hands right in front of the camera. So once we've done that, we got our loop on one end, both our line ends here. We're gonna come right back through. Don't cinch all the way down, okay? So we got both ends. You're gonna pinch down on one. I like to use my middle finger and my ring finger to hold this end, and then I'll do the right side first, or the side closest to you first. And then you're just gonna go through this loop again 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. I actually think this is easier to do with lighter line. You can just pinch this side off here. Now the other side, 1, 2. And now 3. Okay, so now we have it here. Okay, 3 twists on each end, or on each side, excuse me. And now we're gonna pull it down tight. Not super tight, okay? I'm gonna pull it here. Grab the bottom end of the hook if you want, put your finger there. Don't wanna hook yourself. Pull that tight. Now you're gonna be left with this. Now, what you're gonna wanna do is take your split shot and make sure you crimp that down onto the line right about where the barb is or where the point of the hook is. You don't want to go beneath that. Reason being, if it goes too much down, okay, it can mess up your hook sets. It might not present this right. It's gonna wobble a lot more. If we got that here where the hook point is or where the barb is, it's gonna give us a lot better of a presentation here. All right, and it won't mess up your hook sets as much. We got our split shot here. Both line ends go right through it. And then use a pliers, or if you're old-fashioned, use your teeth, okay? I don't have a pliers near me, so I'm gonna just damage my teeth real quick here and pinch that down, okay? Now, cut off the rest of the line that's coming off the split shot. All right, and there you have it. Now it's a little bit more up that past the hook. That really doesn't matter as much. You just wanna make sure that it's not below the hook, the point of the hook, all right? So then once you slide a worm on, this is going to be your end presentation. I'll show you guys in the B footage what these shots look like, as far as what this looks like in the water. The final thing, and I'll go over this again, but make sure, it's going to be kind of hard to see this because I'm using a GoPro, but obviously you have 2 lines tied onto the hole here, all right? When you're tying your line on to tie this rig onto your fishing pole, pull both these lines down and make sure that your fishing line's going through the middle of it, because then you'll have a direct center of gravity and you'll have a proper presentation. Otherwise, it'll drift off to the side and you'll have some problems with your presentation. So let's get back into talking about this rig. Just really wanted to show you guys how to tie this up close. Again, you can Google offshore swivel knot and make sure you guys are using the proper hook. This is just for demonstrations.
But this is a great way to hit trout in lakes. especially in spring. It's a great way to hit trout in rivers as well if you're finding some deep pools where the current's not running too much. And again, this is just a really fun way to switch it up instead of using lures, because as you guys know, we use lures all the time, the dynamic lures, the jerk baits, the crank baits. And if you're really trying to go for that finesse bite, this is a great way to do it. Now you can tie a Rapala knot, you can tie a Palomar knot, a double Palomar knot. For this today, I'm just gonna go with an improved cinch knot. I'm gonna tie this around 6-7 times, slide it through. Make sure you wet your line. We're tied on. That is splitting the middle of your offshore swivel knot. So now we're gonna put on a trout worm. Now you guys, there's all kinds of different trout worms out there on the market. Okay, there's Berkeley. My favorite ones to use, of course, my sponsor is Pete's Custom Trout Worms, okay? Pete's Custom Trout Worms, they come in a wide variety of colors. The Berkeley ones and stuff like that, you typically only find in a couple of those solid colors, pink, white, orange, all right? Pete's Custom Trout Worms, the ones that I have with me today, I got strawberry banana, I got the fire tiger, okay? He makes some straight worms, or he makes them with the egg heads on them too. We got white with the pink egg heads, all right? One of my favorite go-tos though, when it comes to using trout worms, everybody, is just the standard pink, all right? I got the bubblegum pink on here. My favorites to use with this type of rig setup is a 2.5-inch trout worm. You can use a 3-inch trout worm, but I feel that if you're using a 3-inch one, you're gonna miss a lot more bites because they're generally hitting that tail a lot more. This is just less room for error. They're typically gonna try to get that whole thing, at least half of that, so they'll get a good nose hook or a good bottom hook onto them. So let's tie this guy on, or let's rig this guy onto our hook. Good, how you doing?
Good. Trying to bow a carp?
Trying to bow a carp?
Yeah. Is that what you're trying to do?
No, just doing an instructional video on trout worms. I run a YouTube channel. That sounds fun though, bowing a carp right now. Okay, got my 2.5-inch trout worm right here. Now real simple, all we're gonna do, slide that right down the middle, okay? Now a really good guideline, because a lot of people when they're putting on their soft baits, especially worms, it'll be all crunched up, it won't run right. So line it up to where it's gonna end, okay? It's gonna end about right there, and have that roughly, pinch that roughly there, and that's where you're gonna want your hook to come out. You don't wanna have that running through the sides or anything like that, because you wanna make this as perfect as a presentation as you possibly can. Boom, sliding right through. All right, there you have it. That's the rig, you guys. Very, very simple, all right? As you guys have seen some of the B shots, all right? Looks like a little worm or a grub just swimming around there in the water. Let's talk about the setup that you want to use to throw this. Number one most important thing is you're using a very sensitive rod. You can use anything from an ultralight all the way. I wouldn't go past a medium light with this. Definitely don't go medium. I'm using a medium light today. 6-scale lichen rod, 7'2". This is a very, very sensitive rod. I love this rod for all kinds of different types of fishing. But typically when I'm doing finesse fishing for trout or even bass, I'm using this rod. The line that you're gonna wanna use, this is finesse fishing, very small setup, so you wanna use light line. I wouldn't go past 6-pound fluorocarbon. I'm using 4-pound fluorocarbon today. Braid is also a really good choice to use on this. Make sure you're tying on a fluorocarbon leader though. 4 to 6 pound fluorocarbon leader. I would probably go about 12 feet at the minimum on that. This is a 7'2", like I said, so getting to 12 feet shouldn't be too much of a problem on this. When it comes to your reel, that's not really that important for this setup. I got a pretty fast reel on here. It's a 7 to 2 to 1, but you could use anything from a cheap Walmart reel for this as well. The reel, in my opinion, really doesn't matter that much for this setup. So we've talked the setup, we've talked the rig, we've talked what you need to use to throw it, what we like to use to throw it. Let's get into some fishing now with it. All right, here we go, first cast. Full cast out there, let it sink down to the bottom. It's really important to watch your line while we're doing this. Sometimes it'll get slack pretty quick because the fish will get it dropping down on the bottom. Sometimes too, you'll see your line start moving. If that happens, just go ahead and set that hook. Now it's important, ooh, had a bite. I'll tighten that drag up, geez. It's important now, when we're doing this rig, to not apply too much action. It's kind of similar to Ned rigging. If any of you guys bass fish and use the Ned rig, you don't want to apply too much action. It'll actually spook the fish sometimes. Just a couple light, gentle pops. This rig really doesn't take too long to get used to. Again, just don't want to apply too much action. There we go, you guys.
right, make sure to get the hands wet, of course, when we're dealing with these trout. First one of the day, very pretty rainbow. Oh, there he goes. I can see him swimming off right down there. See if we can get another one. Make sure to keep that line as tight as you can. You don't want too much slack. Really no slack at all. Oh, had a hit. Now when it is windy, you guys, and you're trying to get that down there, if it does get a little bit too windy, put that rod tip right there in the water. Get that line in the water. That'll help it sink a lot faster. You won't have to have that wind carry it a bunch. It's a big key tip. I learned that years and years ago just watching Major League fishing shows. Helps a lot when you're Ned rigging or doing stuff like this. Anytime you're finesse fishing, that's a big tip for when it's windy out. There we go. Sweet. Those hands wet. All right, there we go, you guys. Beautiful. There it goes. Okay, everybody, so Cheyenne just showed up. We've already gotten a couple fish, and this is a really fun rig to use. As I mentioned, anybody can really use this rig, and Cheyenne's never used it before, and we're gonna see if we can get her into some fish just to prove that, all right? So she's tying that on right now. Let's put a worm on there and let's see if we can get her into something. Got one. All right. Just to change up your cadences too, you guys, make sure you guys try popping it from 11 and pop it the different way back to 1 o'clock. Let it sit, because you're really just trying to mimic a worm or a grub moving in the water, moving around in the mud, the sand, the vegetation, the rocks, whatever you guys are fishing on. A couple pops, let it sit. Got one. All right, you guys. Right there, got the nose hook. Ooh, he's a feisty one. Oh, there it goes. Couple trout, all in the same trout worm. Really fun rig.
Got one. Woo! Not too bad.
Right.
Just a little bitty bow. Big guy.
Nice.
You're slimy.
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 Oh. There he goes. Cheyenne got her first catch, first time using this little custom rig here on the channel. Very simple, again, size 6, small split shot, offshore swivel knot. Boom. Fun way to use the trout worms. Oh. Yep. Told you. Told you. All the things about fishing. Oh yeah. And there it goes. All right.
Ooh.
Nice.
There we go.
Get a nice little light toss so it gets out there. Nice.
Boom.
There he goes. In and out.
All right, hope you guys enjoyed the instructional how-to video on how to use these trout worms. Again, lots of different ways to use trout worms, but this is a really fun way to do it. And it's just also one of our favorite ways to use trout worms when we do use them. So if you enjoyed the video or found it instructional or educational in any kind of way, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and guys, until next time, Team COF signing out.